Hollow Creek ran behind the town of Briar Hollow like a dark vein cutting through the woods. Everyone knew about it, but nobody liked to talk about it. The water was always cold, even in summer, and it moved too slowly, like it was thinking. My name is Kerrin Hale, and I grew up 5 houses away from that creek. My older sister Marelyx used to warn me never to go near it after sunset. She said the creek didn't just carry water, it carried voices. I laughed at her when we were younger. I thought she was just trying to scare me like older siblings do. But the summer I turned 17, Marelyx stopped laughing. She started locking her bedroom door at night. She stopped swimming. She stopped sleeping. One night I heard her crying in the bathroom, whispering to herself, "It knows how I sound." When I asked her what she meant, she just shook her head and said, "If you hear me calling you from the creek, don't answer, even if I'm screaming." That was the first time I felt real fear settle into my bones. Things got worse after that. Every night around midnight, something made noise outside our house. At first it sounded like frogs, then like footsteps in wet mud. Then one night I heard a voice drifting through my open window. Soft. Familiar. Kerrin. I sat straight up in bed. That was Marelyx's voice. She sounded scared, hurt. "Kerrin, help me. I'm stuck." I rushed to her room, heart pounding, but she was asleep in her bed, pale and shaking, whispering under her breath. I told her what I heard. Her eyes snapped open, wide with terror. She grabbed my wrist so hard it hurt. "That wasn't me," she said. The next night, it happened again. Same voice. Same place. Always from the direction of Hollow Creek. And every night, it sounded a little clearer, a little more real. Like whatever was calling me was practicing. Our parents thought Marelyx was stressed. They blamed school, hormones, nightmares, anything except the truth. But I saw what was happening to her. Dark circles formed under her eyes. She stopped eating. She flinched at the sound of running water. One afternoon, I followed her into the woods without telling her. I watched her stand at the edge of Hollow Creek, staring into the slow-moving water. Her reflection looked wrong, not delayed off, like it was smiling when she wasn't. She whispered something under her breath, and the water rippled even though there was no wind. Suddenly, she turned and screamed at me to run. That was the first time I heard it clearly, from the water itself. "Marelyx." The voice bubbled up like air trapped underwater. "Marelyx. Come back." It didn't sound human. It sounded like a mouth that had learned words by listening, not speaking. We ran all the way home. That night, Marelyx barricaded her door and cried until morning. The next day, she finally told me the truth. She said 3 weeks ago, she heard someone crying by the creek late at night. When she went to check, she saw a shape standing in the water, tall, thin, bending wrong. Its skin stretched tight like wet cloth. It didn't move. It just listened. When she spoke, it copied her, not perfectly at first, but I learned. Every night after that, it came closer to the house. She said it couldn't cross running water unless invited. But Hollow Creek wasn't running fast anymore. It was slowing down, thickening, learning. "It wants my voice," she whispered. "And once it has it, it'll want yours." That night, the creek went silent. No frogs, no insects, no water sounds at all. Then something knocked on our back door, and it used my sister's voice. "Kerrin, it's me. Please open the door." I stood frozen in the hallway, staring at the handle. Marelyx was behind me, shaking, tears streaming down her face. "That's not me," she whispered. The voice outside repeated itself clearer now, stronger, perfect. "I'm cold. Let me in." The door handle twisted slightly. Not enough to open, just enough to show it was learning how. The lights flickered. The sound of water sloshed beneath the house, even though the creek was 20 yards away. Marelyx grabbed my face and forced me to look at her. "No matter what you hear," she said, "you don't answer it. If it sounds like me, if it sounds like you stay silent." Outside, something laughed softly, and the voice changed. It spoke using my voice for the first time. "Kerrin, I know you're there." Neither of us slept that night. Marelyx sat on her bed, hugging her knees, staring at the door like she expected it to melt open. I stayed on the floor with my back against it, listening. Outside, the creek made slow, thick sounds, like something breathing through water. Every few minutes I heard my voice drift through the walls, calling her name, testing it. Not shouting, not begging, just calm, patient, like it knew time was on its side. When the sun finally rose, the sounds stopped all at once. The silence felt worse than the noise. Marelyx looked at me with hollow eyes. "It's waiting for night," she said. "It always does." At school, I couldn't focus. Every word spoken around me felt dangerous, like giving the thing more material to work with. I barely spoke at all. When I got home, I noticed something new. The creek was closer, not by distance, but by sound. I could hear it clearly from the porch now, a slow, sucking noise, like mud being pulled apart. Marelyx refused to go near the back of the house. "It's learning the house," she whispered, "learning where we live." That afternoon, our neighbor Roland Quaid came by. He was old, quiet, and lived alone near the woods. He asked strange questions, whether we had heard voices, whether the water level had changed, whether anyone had gone into the creek at night. Marelyx froze when he said that. Roland's face tightened when he saw her reaction. He told us he'd lived near Hollow Creek longer than anyone else. "Every few decades," he said, "the creek wakes up." He explained that it wasn't the water itself, but something beneath it. Something that couldn't leave unless it learned how to be human. Voices were the first step. Names were the second. Invitations were the last. "Once it sounds right," Roland warned, "people stop questioning it." Marelyx asked him how to stop it. He looked away. "You don't stop it," he said. "You survive it. And you never answer it." Before he left, he handed us a small, cracked mirror wrapped in cloth. "If it copies you," he said, "force it to see itself." His voice dropped. "It hates knowing what it really is." Night fell again, faster than before. The house felt damp, like the air was soaked in creek water. The lights dimmed, even though the power hadn't gone out. Marelyx and I sat together in the living room, holding the mirror between us like a shield. The first sound came from under the floorboards, a wet, dragging noise, slow and careful. Then my voice rose from the kitchen sink. "Marelyx, are you there?" The faucet began to drip even though it was turned off. Each drop hit the metal basin too slowly, too deliberately. Marelyx squeezed my hand until it hurt. "It's closer," she whispered. The voice changed and became hers. "Kerrin, help me." The back door creaked softly, not opening, just testing the hinges. Water pooled beneath it, spreading across the floor like a living thing. The mirror in my hands began to vibrate slightly. The voice outside grew confident. "You hear me now. You know me." I felt something pressing against the door from the other side. Not a hand, but a shape, long and bending, learning how doors worked. The lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room, thick and heavy. The only sound was water, everywhere, in the walls, in the vents, in my ears. Then the whisper came from directly behind us. "Why won't you look at me?" I turned too fast. The mirror caught something pale and stretched, standing inches away. Its face wasn't finished. The mouth moved a second after the words came out. The eyes blinked wrong, like they were remembering how. Marelyx screamed, and the creature screamed back in her exact voice, louder. I shoved the mirror toward it. The thing recoiled violently, jerking backward like it had been burned. Its reflection warped in the glass too tall, too thin, its body bending into shapes no human could survive. The water on the floor rushed backward toward the door as if pulled by an invisible force. The creature hissed, a sound like air being forced through mud. "Not yet," it said in my voice, and then it slipped away downward into the house itself. When the lights flickered back on, the house was soaked. Water dripped from the ceiling. The back door was cracked open, and the creak somehow was louder than ever. Marelyx collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. "It touched me," she said. "I felt it inside my chest, like it was measuring me." I didn't know how to comfort her. I felt too much pressure behind my ears, like someone listening from inside my head. That night, we didn't hear knocking. We didn't hear whispers. That scared me more than anything. Roland's words echoed in my mind. It learns. It waits. At 3:17 a.m., my phone lit up. No caller ID, a voice message. I pressed play. Marelyx's voice is calm, perfect, and smiling. "Kerrin," it said softly. I figured it out. "You can come to the creek now." I didn't tell Marelyx about the voice message. Not at first. I deleted it, but the sound stayed in my head, repeating itself with perfect clarity. Every time she spoke, I flinched, afraid I wouldn't be able to tell the difference anymore. The creek outside sounded closer than ever, like it had crawled up the yard while we weren't looking. That morning, I found wet footprints on the kitchen tiles. They were long and narrow, with too many joints pointing toward the hallway. Marelyx saw them too. She didn't ask where they came from. She just grabbed her jacket and said we needed to leave. But when we tried to start the car, the engine flooded instantly, coughing like it had swallowed water. The radio turned on by itself. Static filled the car, then my voice broke through. "Kerrin, don't go." Marelyx slammed the door shut. Her face was gray. "It knows you now," she whispered. "That means it's almost ready." We went to Roland Quaid's house instead. His place sat higher than the rest of town, far from the creek. When he opened the door, his eyes widened like he already knew we were coming. Inside, his house was lined with mirrors, wind chimes, and old photographs of Hollow Creek when it was wide and fast. Roland told us the truth he'd been avoiding. The thing in the creek wasn't just copying voices anymore, it was collecting them. Every person who had gone missing near Hollow Creek over the last 100 years had heard someone they loved calling for help. The creature didn't eat bodies. It hollowed them out, left the voices behind. Marelyx asked how it chose its victims. Roland looked at her carefully. "It starts with the ones who listen," he said. "Then the ones who answer." His gaze shifted to me and I felt cold all over. "And finally," he added, "the ones it sounds the most like." That night, Roland made us promise not to speak unless absolutely necessary. We communicated with notes and gestures as the sun went down. The wind chimes outside his house rang wildly, even without wind. At exactly midnight, the sound of water hit the walls like rain, though the sky was clear. Then the voices came, dozens of them, layered, overlapping, whispering names we didn't recognize. One voice rose above the rest. "Marelyx." Her name echoed through the house like a memory being dragged from the past. Roland shoved a mirror into her hands. "Don't let it finish the sentence," he whispered. The voice shifted, becoming mine again. "Kerrin, you left something behind." The windows fogged instantly. Shapes pressed against the glass from the outside, long shadows stretching and pulling. The house trembled as if something beneath it was moving upward, searching. The floorboards near the front door bowed, bulging like something was pushing up from below. Water seeped through the cracks. Then the door slowly opened, not forced, not broken. A tall shape unfolded itself in the doorway, dripping and pale. Its limbs bent the wrong way, joints popping softly as it adjusted. Its face kept changing, first Marelyx, then me, then something unfinished in between. When it spoke, every voice came out at once. "You know me," it said. Roland stepped forward, shaken but steady. He raised a mirror high. "You are not welcome," he said firmly. creature froze, staring at its reflection. For a moment it looked confused, angry, and afraid. Then it screamed, and the sound shattered one of the mirrors instantly. The house shook violently. Roland fell backward. The creature lunged forward, stopping inches from Marelyx. It leaned close and whispered in her own voice, "You already belong to me." The lights exploded. Glass shattered. The sound of rushing water filled everything. When it stopped, the doorway was empty. Roland lay still on the floor, blood pooling beneath his head. Marelyx screamed his name, but I pulled her back. Roland's eyes were open, staring, but his mouth moved silently. No sound came out. His voice was gone. Outside, Hollow Creek roared like a living thing, swollen and violent. Marelyx collapsed beside me, shaking. "It took him," she sobbed. I looked at the broken mirror shards scattered across the floor. In one piece of glass, I saw my reflection, and for half a second, it smiled when I didn't. The creek had my voice now, and it wasn't done learning. Roland Quaid was buried 3 days later. The town said he slipped and hit his head, but no one believed that, not really. Marelyx and I stood at the edge of the small cemetery, unable to cry. I kept expecting Roland's voice to drift out of the ground, calm and steady, telling us what to do next. But the silence felt final. After the funeral, the creek flooded for the first time in decades. Water crept closer to the houses, swallowing yards, fences, and the road signs leading out of Briar Hollow. The town called it a natural disaster. Marelyx called it hunger. That night, she told me something she'd been hiding. When it touched me, she said, it didn't just copy me. It asked me a question. My stomach dropped. What question? She swallowed hard. It asked if it could come in. The rule was clear. Invitation mattered, consent mattered, and somehow the creature was learning how to ask. The voices changed after that. They stopped begging. They started reasoning, bargaining, apologizing. The thing used tones that made you want to answer, even if you knew better. One night, it used our mother's voice, crying softly by the creek. Another night, it used our father's, angry and disappointed, calling Marelyx a liar. Each time the sound came closer to the house. The water level rose higher, cracks formed in the foundation. Marelyx stopped sleeping entirely. She sat at the kitchen table all night, whispering rules to herself. Don't answer. Don't invite. Don't reflect alone. I watched her fade, hollowed by fear. I knew the creature wasn't just hunting her voice anymore. It was wearing her down, teaching her how easy it would be to give in, teaching her that silence was pain. The invitation didn't come as words. It came as exhaustion. One night, Marelyx stood by the open back door, staring at the flooded yard. The creek had merged with the lawn, dark water licking at the porch steps. It says it can stop, she whispered. It says if I just let it finish the sentence, it will leave everyone else alone. I grabbed her arm. It's lying, I said. It doesn't keep promises. It collects. She turned to me, tears streaking her face. You don't hear it the way I do, she said. It sounds kind. The water rippled at the edge of the porch. A shape moved beneath the surface, long and waiting. My voice rose from the dark water, gentle and understanding. Marelyx, you're tired. Let me help. The mirrors began cracking on their own. One by one, thin fractures spread across the glass like veins. The creature didn't need to see itself anymore. It had learned what it was and how to hide it. That night, the invitation almost happened. Marelyx stepped forward, barefoot, water soaking into her skin. I stood between her and the creek, screaming without sound, afraid my voice would betray me. The water stilled completely. The creature rose slowly, its upper body breaking the surface. Its face was Marelyx's now. Perfect. Finished. Just say yes, it said softly. Behind me, the house groaned as water filled the crawl space. I realized then that the rule had changed. It didn't need an invitation from her, it needed one from me. I understood the trap too late. The creature had learned my voice for a reason. It wanted me to speak for it, to welcome it, to open the last door. Marelyx stared at me, eyes wide with realization. "Don't," she mouthed silently. The thing leaned closer, my own voice spilling from its mouth. "Tell me it's okay," it whispered. The water surged forward, touching my feet. Cold shot through me like needles. I knew if I spoke, it would be over. Not just for us, but for the town. I clenched my jaw until it hurt, until blood filled my mouth. The creature's smile faltered. It hadn't expected resistance. Not this late, not after learning so much. The creek roared in anger, and the house lights went out. When the lights came back on, the house was underwater up to our ankles. Furniture floated slowly, bumping into walls like tired ghosts. The creature was gone from the porch, but its presence filled the air, heavy and close. Marelyx clung to me, shaking. "It's inside now," she whispered. "Not the house. Us." I felt it too much pressure in my throat, like words being pulled upward without my permission. Every thought felt loud, exposed. The creature wasn't speaking anymore. It didn't need to. It was listening from somewhere deep and close, memorizing breath, heartbeat, hesitation. The mirrors had gone completely black, reflecting nothing at all. I realized then that it didn't need reflections anymore. It knew itself well enough now, and that terrified me more than anything else it had done. We tried to leave. The front door wouldn't open. Not locked, refusing. Water seeped through the walls in thin streams, dripping from the ceiling like rain. Then Marelyx collapsed. Her body went stiff, her eyes unfocused. When she spoke, it wasn't her voice anymore. It was layered, distorted, like multiple mouths sharing one sound. "Kerrin, you're hurting me." I grabbed her shoulders, begging her to fight it, but the words came out wrong. My voice cracked, echoing in the room. The creature was pushing through her, testing how much control it had, using her like a door that wasn't fully open yet. "She's strong," it said through her, "but you're easier." I understood then that Marelyx had been protecting me without even realizing it. The creature wanted me because I listened, because I noticed, because I remembered. It fed on attention as much as sound. I pressed my forehead against hers and whispered, not aloud, but inside my head, everything I wanted to say. I refused to give it words. Marelyx's body shook violently, and she screamed her real scream, raw and broken. The sound disrupted the creature's control. Water splashed violently against the walls. The pressure in my throat eased slightly. The thing recoiled, confused. It hadn't expected pain to fight back. It hadn't expected love to be louder than fear. The house began to tear apart. Floorboards warped and lifted. The sound of rushing water became deafening. The creature finally showed itself, fully rising from the flooded hallway, towering and wrong. Its body looked unfinished again, like it couldn't decide which shape to keep. It spoke in dozens of stolen voices, angry and desperate. "You need me," it roared. "I hold what you lose." I stepped forward, shaking but steady. I raised my hands not in invitation, but in refusal. I didn't speak. I shook my head slowly. The creature shrieked, a sound like water ripping itself apart. It lunged, then stopped, trapped by something it couldn't cross. Not a mirror. Not a door. Choice. Marelyx collapsed into my arms as the creature was dragged backward by the water, screaming in fragments of stolen voices. The flood receded suddenly, rushing back toward the creek like it was being pulled by force. The house fell silent except for our breathing. Dawn light crept through broken windows. The pressure in my throat vanished. The creature was gone for now, but I knew the truth. We hadn't destroyed it. We had starved it, and hunger doesn't forget. Marelyx looked up at me, eyes clearer than they'd been in weeks. "You didn't answer," she said softly. I shook my head. No, I replied, and for the first time since Hollow Creek woke up, the water outside flowed fast again, like it was running away from something it had almost become. For the first time in weeks, the nights were quiet. Too quiet. The creek flowed fast again, loud and clear, like it was trying to prove it was just water. The town slowly returned to normal. The flood damage was blamed on old pipes and bad planning. People stopped whispering, but Marelyx and I didn't relax. Silence had become suspicious. Every time I spoke, I waited to hear my voice come back wrong. It never did, but sometimes when I stood near the creek, I felt watched, like something was listening without ears. Marelyx started sleeping again, though she woke from nightmares clutching her throat. She said she dreamed of being empty, of speaking and hearing nothing come out. I dreamed of water filling my lungs while someone else spoke through my mouth. We didn't tell our parents. We didn't need to. They knew something had changed. Fear leaves marks even when it's quiet. A week later, the town council announced plans to dam part of Hollow Creek to prevent future flooding. The idea made my stomach twist. Stopping the water felt wrong and dangerous. I tried to explain, but words failed me. How do you tell people the creek was alive without sounding insane? Marelyx felt it too. If it can't flow, she said, it'll learn another way out. We went back to the creek together for the first time since the night it almost took us. The water rushed past our ankles, cold and clean, but beneath it, something dark moved slowly against the current, like a memory refusing to wash away. Near the bend where Roland's house used to be, we found something wedged between rocks, a bundle of old voice recorders, rusted and broken. Dozens of them. Some still hummed faintly, playing fragments of sound, laughing, crying, whispering names. Voices trapped mid-sentence. Marelyx dropped to her knees, sobbing. These were the missing voices, the ones the creature had collected and stored like tools. I understood then. It didn't just imitate. It was archived, and it wasn't finished. As long as the voices existed, so did it. The creek surged suddenly, nearly knocking us over. I felt a familiar pressure in my throat, brief but clear, a warning. That night, the whispers returned. Not loud, not close, but distant and scattered. Not calling us, calling others. I heard names I didn't recognize drifting through the open window. Children's voices, elderly voices, people who didn't know the rules yet. Marelyx stared at me, terrified. It's spreading, she said. Not here, everywhere. The creature had learned its lesson. It wouldn't focus on one family again. It would scatter itself, hide in running water across towns, creeks, pipes, rivers. Listening. Learning. Waiting for invitations didn't need to be spoken aloud. We packed that same night. We left Briar Hollow before sunrise, without telling anyone where we were going. As we crossed the bridge out of town, I looked down at Hollow Creek one last time. For a moment, the water stilled, and I heard my voice, faint and far away, saying my name like a memory trying to come home. I didn't answer. Marelyx squeezed my hand. We drove on in silence, carrying the rules with us. Don't answer. Don't invite. Don't assume silence means safety. Because some things don't need mouths to speak. They just need you to listen. We never went back to Briar Hollow. Marelyx and I moved 3 states away, to a dry place where rivers were shallow and loud, where water didn't linger or think. For a while it worked. We found jobs. We laughed again. We slept through the night, but fear doesn't disappear. It just learns how to wait. Every now and then, I'd catch Marelyx staring at a sink or a rain puddle a second too long. I did the same. We avoided lakes. We never swam. We never answered unknown calls. Silence became our safest language. People thought we were cautious. They didn't know we were survivors. Years passed. The memories softened, but they never faded. Then one night, during a heavy storm, the power went out. Rain hammered the ground, filling ditches and drains. I stood by the window watching water rush along the street, and for just a second, barely a breath, I heard something familiar beneath the rain. Not my name, not Marylyx's, just a hum, a learning sound. I felt the old pressure rise in my throat. Not strong, not demanding, curious. I shut the window and stepped away. I didn't speak. I didn't listen. The sound faded. Marelyx joined me in the dark. She didn't ask what I heard. She didn't need to. She handed me a notebook we'd kept since leaving, filled with rules, warnings, and names of towns near dangerous water. We'd started mailing anonymous letters, small warnings, simple rules. If you hear someone calling from the water, don't answer. Some people laughed, some listened. That was all we could do. The creature didn't belong to one creek anymore. It belonged to any place where water slowed enough to listen back. I realized then that this was our life now, not running, but watching. Not fighting, but denying. The creature fed on attention, on curiosity, on kindness twisted just enough to open a door. It couldn't force its way in. It never could. It only finished sentences people started themselves. That knowledge was our power. And our burden. We had learned the hard way what it cost to listen too closely. So if this story reaches you, remember this. Water carries more than sound. It carries memory. And sometimes memory listens back. If you hear a voice where no one should be by a creek, a drain, or a flooded road, do not answer. Do not explain. Do not call back. Walk away. Let the water forget you. Because some things are still out there, waiting to learn how you sound when you say yes.